So yeah, this is a video I've been hoping to make for a couple of weeks now, and I just managed to fit a little bit of time in just now. And it's this whole business about why bother talking to people about these subjects. I'm probably going to call the video something like why bother talking to SJWs, but in actual fact the same thing would apply if you regard yourself as an SJW. Why bother talking to anti-SJWs, or why bother talking to one particular group of feminists or another, or why bother talking to anti-feminists, or really this whole thing goes across the board. I read so many different comments and so many discussions. Why bother trying to reason with these people? Why bother? It's kind of beyond all redemption kind of thing. And I remember getting the same kind of comments back in the day with regard to Christians. Why bother talking? They're never going to change. They're not really listening. And when you have those kind of exchanges, you do get those little moments where you feel people aren't listening. And sometimes you'd have a discussion, and what would happen is you'd say something, and effectively what would happen is once you'd hit them with something that they couldn't really answer, or you'd answer the question, they'd just go quiet, right? They'd just stop responding. And it's easy to take that entirely negatively and think, you bastard, you're never prepared to admit when you're wrong. You just walk away from the conversation. And sometimes people would walk away from those conversations and then see them asking the same thing somewhere else. They'd say something like, well, if humans came from apes, how come there are other apes, or something like that. So you'd explain speciation, allopatric speciation and sympatric speciation, how it can all work, right? And then you'd hear them, they just wouldn't respond, and then you'd see the same comment from the same person somewhere else. That obviously isn't a good thing, right? But it isn't all of that. That isn't my entire experience with it. And my other entire experience with it was that people can change and people do take things on board. But it's part of our human nature that people very rarely do it at the time. They very rarely, especially if it's something that they're very much soaked in, it's become part of them, right? Is that they're not going to suddenly go, do you know what, I've had to think about it, and I just totally disown everything that I was saying the other week. All right, entirely changed my perspective on this. It hardly ever happens that. And the times that I saw it happen with regard to people with religion was that what people would do is they would walk away from YouTube. They would walk away from online engagements in that sphere. It would give them a chance to kind of reinvent themselves or to reposition themselves. And in many ways it's a lot easier to discuss something when you've repositioned yourself 2 months ago and A, had a chance to think through it, but two, I think it maybe allows you just to salvage a little bit of pride if you can say, yeah, I did used to say that, but that was an old me, right? Whereas if they did used to say that was 5 minutes ago, it's a little bit of a harder thing to do. And so I always hold out hope that that is going to happen, and I'm sure that in many ways and in many cases that does happen. I know that it certainly happened with regard to religion. There was a guy that used to post called Pestman Pat, and I had loads of exchanges with him over intelligent design and evolutionary biology, and they never seemed to go anywhere. And then he disappeared, stopped making videos, and then he made a video. I've been to check and his channel's not there anymore. I think he just posted the one video and he must have taken it down again. But he made a video saying hello to everybody who I used to speak with. I've not posted for a couple of years. It's been quite a traumatic period of my life. Everything that everybody told me, I thought on it, and in the end I realised my beliefs weren't sustainable. And I left my religion, I left my faith. As a result of that, most of his family had disowned him. Even his children, I think there was only one of his children that was still prepared to keep in contact with him because he was from one of these sort of religious groups that takes these things all too fucking seriously. But he had done that, but he'd needed that chance to go away from the online environment. He didn't just make one video one day arguing in favour of intelligent design and God, and then the next day going, yeah, that was all a load of crap, I've had a rethink. Right? It just doesn't work that way. And what I learnt was, it wasn't me that changed his mind, but it wasn't me that didn't change his mind. Is that every single little good point that you can make, this has been my experience, every single good point that you can make earns you a little credit there. And every little point that you can make rather than shouting at somebody, every little well-crafted argument or legitimate point that you can make is just a little token to your credit. And maybe, just maybe for some people, there is a straw that will break the camel's back. And it isn't the last straw that breaks the camel's back it's all the other straws added together along with that last straw that breaks the camel's back. So I never see that it isn't worth making that argument to people. And it doesn't matter what it is that you're really passionate about. If you're passionate that women are getting this terrible deal in this particular sphere and that the patriarchy is responsible for it, my advice to you is to keep making your argument, because it might work. If your position is that that's all a load of crap, actually, and it's a total misrepresentation of the way things is, my advice to you is to do that and to keep having those discussions, because it does look on the face of it online that nobody ever seems to be getting through to everybody and everybody's entrenched in their positions. But although there is a lot of entrenchment, I don't believe it's as bad as that. And people do change their positions, but they change their positions on the back of a whole host of arguments, and they change their positions often by going away and licking their wounds for a little period and then coming back to the discussion. Okay, that's what I wanted to be saying for a couple of weeks, really. It's on the back of some comments and some PMs and some things that people have said in video, and it's all just accumulated to a point where I wanted to just give my little thoughts on that. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye for now.